What do we have here? Today we are going to be installing the Uptop Overland Alpha roof rack on my 2020 magnetic gray Toyota Tacoma Sport. Let's go ahead and open it up. Top part comes out. So this is a quick look at everything that comes in the box. Here's some handles. This is the Alpha rack, so it comes with those handles. We opted for the seam pods. Actually, I think they might have came with these. The rock lights we ordered separately, but it's got all this hardware. They're kind of labeled like this, so we got it in order: 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and so on. Some Loctite, some brackets, some more brackets, more hardware, and some spacers. We kind of got it laid out the way we're gonna do it. These are for the handlebars again, and I believe those are as well. So first we start by mounting the feet. So step one is we're gonna mount the bolts from this bag to this bracket. This is the front bracket, like this. And there's a little bit of play here, so you can make sure that the bottom curves to your truck. When you're done, you'll see the bolt. It should look like this. And then you have the washer, and on the inside you have another washer, a lock washer, and then your nut. And then go ahead and leave it a little bit loose so you can still articulate this footing so that it matches the top of your truck. Alright, so that's the front, and the back bracket looks like this, and it'll mount with the nuts, the washers, and the lock washers exactly the same way, and it should look like that. Okay, so we've been using the size 13 to fasten the front and rear brackets, and we got both of them done now. Alright, so next we're going to mount the first and last load bar as indicated on the sticker, which is going to go on the front and the rear, and that way when you line up all the other load bars, they should all be pretty close. We'll just hand tighten these and not even make it too tight so we can make sure everything fits well. For the first and last load bars, we are using this 7/16 size, which fits well, and for the all other load bars, it's actually an Allen wrench, and the one we will be using, size 4. There we go. So for the rear load bar, it's going to be the bolt, the crush washer, and then a regular washer, and they mount on this first one is going to be at the end of this groove here, and this second bolt is just below this the square you see there. The front load bar, we're just gonna mount it horizontally, and the bolts will line up in here just like that, and we'll bolt them in as far forward as possible. One of the complaints with this rack is if you don't mount this far forward, you get a vibration if you seat this all the way back there. So BL is gonna do this one right. So now we're gonna mount the remaining load bars everywhere you see the little horizontal line. That's where they're gonna go. We are gonna be using this pouch here, and this pouch says all other load bars, and this is where the Allen bolts start getting used. You can easily over tighten this stuff. So BL's got this smaller setups going, keep everything from being over tightened that way. The Allen bolt and then the crush washer there. Now we're gonna do the same thing on both sides, and we're gonna go all the way down and get them all spaced out like this. At this point, worth noting, there is this short bar to mount our LP4s up front. We do have some extra bolts, which is nice that they sent extra parts. We're gonna install this windscreen, whatever you picked out. When you place the order, we're gonna be using these windscreen bolts, and we're gonna need to use the 5mm Allen or the 13 socket. All right, it's coming in along nicely. We now seated these two Allen bolts with a nut on the other side. It's got like an abrasive surface to keep it mounted. At this point, we're gonna go ahead and tighten all the load bars down before we start mounting the armor bar and the handles. So we are using this bag called grab handles. These are the parts it's come with. We pre-loaded them with the lock washers there. We have the Allen bolt, the long one, with the crush washer, this part of the metal grab handle spacer, the armor spacer, and then the rack system. And that'll just mount right into there until it looks like that. Now we're gonna do this. This is the armor to Groove Tech. So this is what it's going to look like. This is the back side. We got the bolt coming through there. This is the top. All there is a spacer here that we put in. And then here's the Allen bolt with the crush washer on the outside, the armor piece, or what they call it. So we're gonna do that here, 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 and here. There are some extra pieces that they've been giving us along the way. So for this part, we're gonna be using this tool here to punch holes in the drip guard and to access the anchors to mount the rack system. Let me show you what this punch looks like. I bought it on Amazon. It was pretty cheap. I think it was like $8. And that's gonna give us the punch we need, the correct size hole, so that everything lines up nice and perfect. There's a metal wire that goes along the spine of this rail, this plastic piece. It's embedded inside the plastic piece, and if you try to use a drill, the metal will make the drill deviate, so you won't be able to drill straight down. You'll be slight to the right, slight to the left, because it won't drill through that metal. So this makes the process a lot easier. All right, so for this strip, what we're gonna do is take the flathead screwdriver, and on my model, it's just pop it out like that, and then you can lift it up. So from here, you just go ahead and pop this up too. If you look, it's biting under this ridge right here. So it's gonna take a little bit of force, or you can just use the screwdriver again and stick it under there, and then you can grab it like that. All right, and you pull it up. It's gonna take some force because there's a adhesive right here. See these adhesives? See? So we have this flathead. This is a pretty big one, because what you can do with this is just you can feel it where it's soft, and you can just stick the flathead in there and spin it around like this, and it leaves a nice opening. We can finesse this a little bit more, but as you can see, this is all like housing around it. The threading doesn't start till in there. So do the same thing here. And we're gonna do that all the way around. BL's taking care of that side there. So for this next part, we're gonna take this tape. We're gonna lay some strips down. I'll let BL show you actually, be easier. So he's gonna cover the hole, and the tape's gonna be the reference point for the hole. And we'll do the same with these two holes. Just wanna have a good center on the screws there. Then we pop this stripping back on, and so you want to make sure it's lined up because we're about to make marks for the holes. So to make sure it's lined up, I pop this piece back, and then you just want to massage this piece all the way back until it lines up pretty square here. So we have a little gap here. So I'm gonna massage this stripping all the way down a little bit more. We push this one towards here, and this strip starting over there, just gently massaged it this way down here until we have that tight fitting, OEM fitting. So at this point, you take a pin. You can mark it however you like. Sorry about the focus. For me, you can see here, and I'm just gonna do a dot like that. I'm gonna do the same thing here. And do a pretty hard dot. Then be able to get that side over there. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this back open again. And I'm gonna take this back off again. And now, we're gonna punch some holes in this sucker. And this is the punch we're going to be using. It says 3/4 19 millimeter, and then we have actually a metal mallet here. Our two holes are right here. They're a little hard to see, but there is a hole in this punch, so I'm going to visualize it from the top to make sure it's centered. And now I'm just going to pound it on the top. We give it a good pound for the first one, and that seats it, and then just keep hammering it down, and that feels like we're through. So let's pull this out, and you will have a hole like that. So as you can see here, there are two pieces of metal rod right there. There were one that used to look like a single piece, and that's what gets in the way if you try to drill it. So if you want to keep them intact and not have to cut this whole piece off, you get a little bit more stability that way. For me, I feel like you get less wind noise that way, and I don't think you get a better watertight seal, but you do have a smaller opening for water to get in rather than a big square like this. So I think that's a good way and well worth the $10 or whatever for the punch. So we're gonna go ahead and punch out all 4 of the holes. We went ahead and punched this one right here, and so we have 2 on this side, and now we're gonna go on this side. And if you look at this on this side, they don't have to be perfect. You can see they're not exact. This one's pretty good, but this one's slightly towards my thumb. But this is gonna fit just fine. The hole leaves, this size hole leaves enough space it's pretty forgiving. You can have a little margin of error there. As long as you get pretty good spacing like this in between the border, you should be fine. But look at that, a lot of metal you're going to be cutting through like that. All right, so as you can see, we've got our holes here. They're not very pretty, but we're going to go ahead and at this point we don't need tape anymore. So we're going to take them off all everywhere. I like to leave this sticky thing, but just stick it to the side. So to mount this strip back on, start in the front. You just pretty much just push it back in place like this. It just goes on and it's back in play already. So just push it all down and so just push it all down, and as you can see here, the hole's right there. And this gluey stuff, I don't mind it being in there. It's gonna create like a plumber's tape type of seal because it gets squished in there. So we're gonna just push this down all the way across here. And pushing towards the back while you do this. All right, and as you can see here, the hole's nice and lined up. And then we're going to, so this part here just clips in like the front, the front part. Just push it in. And this is when we use this bag, and they're labeling this front spacers. So those just sit right in here. So these are the rear spacers. We're gonna get these going in a minute. And this is the pack that says rack to roof. These are MX6 bolts, and I'll show you how those go on. For this part, it's recommended to use some clear silicone. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of stretch these out. Just gonna stretch these out, make sure they fit in there nice and good, which looks good. So then I'm gonna just open this silicone up and drop a bead in there. All right, so the front are mounted, the rear are mounted. So what we're gonna do now is take this silicone and be very generous with it as we fill up this little area here and get the screws down. All right, so now we're gonna bury the silicone in here, being very generous. So I'm gonna just kind of stick it in there and squeeze it. Take a look here. And that's what it looks like. So I kind of just filled up the whole cavity, and it goes inside the threading area as well, just like that. I kind of put a little bit more just around the edges here. Same thing on this side. Shoot for the bottom first. If you shoot for the bottom first, it's easier to make sure you get it in the right spot. We are using the 5mm for these bolts. This is how we lined them up. They'll seat just like that. All right, so we put it up. Be careful, use 2 people. Or more. Or more, yeah. Shoot. And then, so this is how the bolts are. M6. So it's the bolt, the crush washer, and then the washer. So we're gonna get these down. Don't want to hesitate too long or the silicone starts drying up. So we're gonna put them in all the holes. All right, we got it mounted. All the bolts are in. One trick is you can loosen these up and you can move it away so that you can easily access this Allen bolt. So that's what we did. This was actually seated to the left, and we moved it to the right, and that should be fine. Another thing is that this bar here sits vertical, not horizontal like the rest, so that it can clear this fin here and not rub. So that's nice. So now that we have everything siliconed and sealed and looking pretty good so far, we now are going to tighten these because we left them a little loose. Well, they look tight, but they're not, so that we can match the curvature of the truck. So if you see here, the truck's not flat, it curves. And then if you look down here at how the mounts work, they actually aren't flat either. They can change their curvature to match that of the truck. And the spacers allow the rack to sit without touching any part of the truck. So the spacers are very necessary. So we're gonna go and tighten them down, and then we're gonna start working on these grab handles. I think in the directions they want you to do this sooner, but we're saving it for the end just because we're working on the floor and we don't want to do that. We have some time today and we just wanted to knock this out really quick since we had it in the back of the truck. So pro tip, it did come with thread locking compound, but stainless steel versus aluminum will win every single time. So I don't want to ruin the threads in the aluminum of the rack, but you can utilize thread lock in this part here where the stainless steel bolt meets another stainless steel nut that's built into the rack system. And there's one also on the other corner. This is the other point I was talking about. It's a different color. And when you see that different color, that's actually mounted inside the frame. And you can use thread lock on that. But other than that, like that. And also where the grab handles mount, you can try it there if you like. Because you're going to be changing your setup. There's no point in locking it. It's pretty tight already. And you can just feel it if the crush washer is getting loose. It's got a lot of clearance. I don't know if you can see here. See if I can show you. So it's about an inch. Everything sits about an inch off the top of the truck. We do have some extra pieces here. We have some rock lights coming in that haven't arrived yet. This bar and these pieces are for the LP4 setup that we're gonna run, which is why we have this windscreen here. And we're gonna get these handles mounted, but we'll do that in a separate video since only those with Alpha are going to have these. Some final tips here. You want to check your rack at regular intervals. If you're using it hard, you want to check it more frequently. If you do need to take the rack off for whatever reason, you're going to have to redo the silicone part. And if you do hear any vibrations in the truck, definitely check your rack, because it might be up there before you start investing a lot of money in checking your truck. If you got a really nice color matched rack, then make sure you take care of it just like you do your car paint. It's going to be just about the same. We'll be able to scratch, but this we got power coat and it's very UV resistant. Again, we want to keep it nice and clean just the same. I have the technical support line here in case you want to call because you need missing some bolts or pieces and something like that. And when you are loading the rack, just be careful to not use the rack loading specifications for your load. You want to know what the load specifications are for your vehicle, because they will be different. So just because the rack can hold more weight doesn't mean the roof of your cab can. So you don't want to damage or have your rack come off of the top of your cab by mounting too much. So stay tuned for, we're gonna put out another video how to install the rock lights. We're gonna do another one on how to do the grab handles. And then we're gonna do another one on installing the LP setup if that's what you did order like we did here. We are gonna be putting 35s on this truck. These are the OEM tires and wheels, so wait for that. We are also going to install some Baja lights on the side here, some S2s and S1s. And if you would like to see a video on the Baja SAE fog lights, we can do that for you too. They're very easy to install, plug and play. So we upgraded to the Diver Stage 3 and also the Oman EMU BP 51s. So far, they are bomb-proof. Oh my gosh, we're coming down the mountain and I found this rattlesnake. Yeah, it's a rattlesnake. Can you guys see the hood? You guys see the rattlesnake?